Hi everybody, I'm Sam Mazzella with Leaderboard. I am a trader here at RGC Coffee in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I am the president of East Coast Coffee Madness, and I'm a Q Grader as well. I'm also a really big coffee fan and have been all my life. I'm here today to teach you guys about how to discern which origins you'd be cupping in what could potentially be a blind cupping. So sometimes, whether you're a pro or whether you're an amateur coffee enthusiast, you've all been put into a situation where you've had to cup and maybe you didn't know which origin you were cupping, or you had to guess which origin. So I'm here today to teach you a few tips and tricks as to how to do that properly. So without further ado, let's get it on. So first things first, what is cupping? Well, the SCA has a standard cupping protocol. All of us Q graders, for anybody who doesn't know, Q stands for quality. All of us Q graders have had to go through pretty extensive and rigorous testing in order to evaluate coffees and properly score them. This is a score system that is used worldwide, from producers all the way down to roasters and end users. In Canada to date, I believe there are somewhere between 50 and 60 cuppers. A lot more in the United States and a lot more in Brazil and the rest of the coffee countries. The really cool thing about cupping is that cupping is obviously a very personal thing, right? So when you're going into cupping, whether you've eaten properly, slept properly, drank a lot of water, exercised in the morning, all these things kind of go into a great cupping experience. It's extremely experiential. It's extremely fun to do, and what it really allows you to do is it allows you to hone in on your coffee sensory skills, which from time to time I love doing. It's like playing an instrument. You pick up that guitar. If you're out of practice, it's going to take you a while to get back into it, but if you've been doing it for a long time, you get better and better and better at it. So here we are starting our coffee cupping of the day. As you can see here, we have 4 very interesting coffees, a lot of them very distinct in terms of roast and green. I'm going to try to zoom in over here just to give you guys a little bit of an idea as to what we're dealing with. Some of the coffee professionals watching this are already thinking to themselves, oh, I can tell what these coffees are pretty much by just looking at the beans, especially that one. Okay. So what I'm here to tell you is that every step of the coffee process is an important one. Everything from the fragrance, which is dry smelling the coffee and trying to get what the nuances are and what the characteristics are of the coffee. Okay. Color of the roast, the texture of the grind. Everything kind of goes into understanding what origin is at hand. All right, guys, so prior to cupping, prior to pouring water into the cup, okay, I'm just going to show you guys a little bit here. Before doing anything, a really good indicator of what potential origin you might be dealing with is actually the fragrance, okay? So fragrance is essentially what you smell prior to pouring water on top of it. Aroma is what you smell after putting water on top of it. So right now, if I just grab the cup and really put my nose into it, which I'm not really supposed to do, but we're doing it for the purposes of evaluating which origins we're dealing with. I'm smelling a lot of different things right now. Mostly I'm smelling some nuttiness and some chocolate, okay? So automatically right there, just from the fragrance, I'm already getting a sense of what this coffee might be and what this coffee might taste like. Okay guys, before we get into the cupping, real quick, okay? I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit of a cheat sheet, okay? Looking at the green and looking at the roasted coffee are insane indicators as to what it is. 100% of the time, well, not 100% of the time, but almost all the time, Ruby, myself, other Q graders, other people who are working in the lab environment, they're able to discern what the coffee is just by looking at it. So I'm going to give you some indications, okay? Number one, okay, washed and natural coffees have a very distinct look. I'm going to show you what a natural coffee looks like, okay? Smaller beans, they look a little bit drier. There is very distinct kind of characteristics on a dry coffee. Maybe it's not coming out on the camera, but very good. The roasted product itself, as you can see, okay, it's just a little bit more, it's just uneven as a coffee roast profile. Over here, okay, for this coffee, you can tell that the varietal is a pretty big one. I know for a fact that this is a Pacamara, so that is equal parts Pacas and equal parts Margohipe. Margohipe is very common in Central America as a varietal. So I'm looking at this coffee and already I'm thinking to myself, this is a Central American coffee. When I go to taste it, maybe it'll give me another clue as to whether it's Nicaragua or whether it's Guatemala. Let's move to the next one. Perfect. So over here for the green, as you can see, some discoloration as well. Some of the silver skin is still on. Some of the beans are a little bit uneven. Some are pea berries, some are larger. The biggest factor here is really the roast. Coffee professionals will know automatically that this is an Ethiopian coffee, okay, or an African coffee. But for, you know, the amateur or somebody who's just getting into it, maybe you're going to get to that point once you taste the coffee, all right? And then the last one, and really the most, you know, the easiest bean to see what it actually is. Yeah, this is what's known as the Java typica varietal. Okay, so this is common to Indonesia, to Sumatra specifically, and this is what we're cupping here today. All right, guys. So we're just about a minute away from when the coffee is at its ideal temperature to cup. Okay. I was taught a trick while I was doing my Q that maybe could help you. Okay, it gives you a little bit of an edge as to cupping before the coffee is ready to cup or when it's too hot. So what you're going to do is you're going to dip your spoon. You're only going to take a little bit of coffee and you're going to suck in the coffee through your teeth. So instead of aspirating like that, you're going to clench your teeth together and then you are going to aspirate. And it should make a pretty piercing noise. I apologize in advance for this. All right. All right, guys, so we're going to delve into our first coffee here. I already know what it is, and I think you all know as well. So this is a Sumatran coffee. I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of what it tastes like. So Sumatra is very distinct. It's a coffee that is characterized by something that's known as the Sumatran character. And if you're a little bit foreign to that that wording, essentially what you're looking for is a very sharp sweetness, but also something that is musty, almost a fermented coffee in a way. It was very, very popular when I first started my journey into coffee about 10 years ago. You couldn't throw a rock without hitting a Sumatra blend or really a Sumatra single origin cup. This was really like the standard about 10-15 years ago in the coffee world, and it still to this day remains, you know, one of my favorite coffees. It's very versatile. It hits you in the face every single time you try it, and some Sumatrans are really just some of the best coffees I've ever tried. So like I showed you guys before, and Ruby can show you again here, these are larger beans. This is a Pacamara. Okay, so I'm going to go right into this. Wow, so that is really phenomenal. That is a fantastic coffee. Usually when I think about larger beans, I think about Nicaragua. I think about our friends in London, Ontario, and St. Thomas, Ontario, Las Chicas del Café, who only import coffees from the surrounding farms on their estate over there. And usually when I see larger beans, I always think back to their coffee. But for some reason, this is hitting me a little bit different. I believe that this is perhaps a Guatemalan coffee, just because of the sweetness that's in it. Really, it's super balanced, it's super bright, and I'm getting some acidity as well. So, Ruby, can you tell me what coffee this is, please?
That's a guat.
It's a guat, great, okay. And it is a Pacamara. So
Yeah.
I was right. So guys, really, the look of the bean is one thing, the varietal is one thing, but when you actually go into it, there are certain origins that taste different than others. So some of those attributes that I just gave you guys are a little bit more particular to Guatemala in this instance. All right, so here's our last coffee. This is the coffee that looks a little bit all over the place here. Some Quakers in there, some Brokens. I can tell that the green is a natural. Okay, so I'm gonna delve right into this. Like we said earlier, the fragrance was a little bit nutty and chocolatey. And that's exactly what I'm tasting right now. It's actually really, really good. I'm gonna guess that due to the nature of this coffee, this is a natural Brazil, but of higher quality. I'm assuming it's a fine cup. Definitely not a honey process. This tastes like a Snickers bar actually right now. This is the first time I've had a Brazil coffee that actually tastes exactly like what a Snickers bar would taste like. So nuts and chocolate and a little bit creamy and caramely at the same time. Really, really enjoyable coffee. Don't let looks fool you. Brazil is the largest exporter of coffee, the largest producer of coffee in the world. It's a third of our coffee production. Okay, so a lot of times when you're on a table, you see smaller beans. They look a little bit more faded than the washed coffees on the table. They roast a little bit more unevenly than the other coffees on the table, and they taste nutty and chocolatey. You're pretty much a sure bet that you're cupping a Brazil coffee. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, Ruby, for helping me out. Thank you, Leaderboard, for having us. We hope you enjoy this part of the understanding what coffee origins are, how to cup them, and how to evaluate them. You guys can reach me on Instagram at SMAZZ44 or at EC Coffee Madness. You can also check out RGC Coffee. We've got amazing relationship projects and community programs that we deal with at Origin all the time.